All right, we had an interesting week in the markets. The S&P was basically flat, although it did come down quite a bit on Wednesday after this news came out. The NASDAQ, I believe, was down slightly. It was the value side of the market that actually outperformed, and the small caps and the mid caps. Small caps were up. Mid caps are actually up quite nicely. So we had a little bit of a rotation from last week. Last week, obviously, tech and your growthier names outperformed. So that is interesting, but that's typically, a lot of times, that's how it works. Whenever you have a week where the market underperforms, typically that's how it goes, right? Because when stuff sells, well, people typically flock at least a little bit to the value names, and the big tech names are the names that disproportionately make up the indexes. So when the indexes go down, well, that's what gets sold the most. So that's pretty much how that went. First things first, if you get value out of the video, please like, subscribe, comment. Very much appreciate all the support. So Jerome Powell basically came out on Wednesday and said, just made serious statements about tariffs. Tariffs likely will mean higher inflation and slower growth. Unemployment is likely to go up as the economy slows. The market is functioning as it should, even though there are many uncertainties. So this obviously spooked the market, but he's not pointing out anything that isn't already known. But I think the thing that spooked the market is this is kind of Powell's way of saying without saying that we're not going to be here to bail you guys out, and by you guys I mean the Trump administration, as much as people think. That's what I took from this, and that's pretty much, I think, what the market took from it as well. So that is quite interesting because people like Trump is pushing the Fed very hard to cut. The problem is inflation is still above the rate that they want it to be at to cut. The even bigger problem is we might be getting a little bit of a moderate stagflation type of thing going on, insofar as we have higher than wanted inflation, but we also have very low growth, if not negative growth. And I've said time and time again that I think that the Trump administration, they can pull off the tariff thing and make it work. The problem is the timeline is honestly the main problem. Because, like I said, if they drag this out too long, it means that they're going to lose the midterms, they're going to lose the presidency, and in the end, they get nothing done. Because if the changes that they make, if they only last a couple years or even 4 years, like, what is the point in doing them? Like, there's really no point. It's going to have an absolutely minuscule effect. So that is the big problem, is that if they want to make a lasting impact, they have to make sure that this stuff stays. And to make sure this stuff stays, they need the economy to be growing by the end of this year, if not next year for sure. But because if we're still in this, lower growth, higher inflation, a year from now, it's not going to be well. It's not going to end up well. And this is what makes me concerned, is that I think that by what they're doing, they can make it work. It's just going to be really hard. And that's why I'm against it. I'm not necessarily against it. The average person is against it because they're told to be against it. They don't know anything about economics. They don't know anything about anything. I'm against it because I don't think they're going to be able to pull it off. And in a perfect world, I don't think tariffs is the ideal way to, as a politician, your job should be to make the lives of your constituents as good as possible. Tariffs can help in a certain way, but I think that if you want to make the lives of the average American better, you really need to cut government, you need to cut regulations, you need to cut taxes, and just make it easier on people, right? Like the main reason that people's lives are getting harder is the government is making things harder, right? You look at the housing industry, the main reason that the housing industry is falling back is it's way too hard to get a house built. Like, I'm just using an example. Like, I know several people in the housing industry, one specifically that it literally runs a very large, not a very large, but a moderately large housing company in a major city, and they said they literally shut down the company because, and their exact words were, the government makes it way too hard to get a house built. Right, so that's just one example, but that's pretty much everything. So that's what I would be doing, right? If I was in government, I'd be cutting taxes. I'd be cutting regulations. I'd be asking your small, mid, and large size business owners, what is the top things that is holding you back from growing, from increasing people's wages? It's like, that is what people should be asking. And you're never going to hear from a business owner like, hey, I wish there was more taxes. You're never going to hear from a home builder like, hey, I wish there was more regulations. Like, that's just not happening. So that's just my thoughts there. But as far as my thoughts on the markets going forward, I think we're going to stay choppy going forward. I just think that with all the uncertainty right now, honestly, I think that we're more likely than not to see a recession, although it most likely is not a severe recession, but I do think we're going to see a recession. So over the next 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months, I think it's going to be hard for the market. Maybe it goes up, but if it goes up ever so slightly, and it's going to be really choppy along the way. I think we're going to finish the year down. My predictions for the end of the year, I'd say maybe 5,000 on the S&P, low 5,000s. That's definitely worse than I thought we were going to be up until recently. And I think that I think that the mistake that the Trump administration is going to make is they're going to drag this out longer than they should. Not necessarily that they were completely wrong about everything, but I think they're going to drag it out longer than they should. So let's go to the next thing here is Bitcoin market cap dominance hits a 4-year high. It's up to about 64%. And I just briefly wanted to talk about this because this is something that's not really being talked about all that much, even though, I mean, obviously we're disappointed with where Bitcoin's at. I think most people would be expecting it to be quite a bit higher than where it's at right now. But the one thing that is very good is if this halving cycle, like if it means that it takes out a lot of these garbage altcoins, which is virtually all of them, then to each their own. Like it really, really, really will not bother me at all, because most of these altcoins, in fact, virtually all of them, they need to go. And this is just good. This is a good sign here. So next thing I wanted to bring up here is from the Pelosi tracker. So this is from Representative Bruce. I don't know if that's Republican or Representative. I believe it's Representative. Bruce Westerman just disclosed $2 million of new trades. So 1.9 million of them were buys. And virtually all of them were these oil and gas companies, ExxonMobil, Chevron, and BP were the largest buys. It looks like he bought a little bit of Abbott Laboratories, Adobe, Adidas, Alphabet, Amazon. So he's loading up. But I mean, the fact that he's buying oil companies probably, I mean, if we get a recession, well, that means that the price of oil probably goes down, so I was just talking about a recession, but this is probably good news for that. And at the very least, this might be more of a long-term kind of thing that, hey, maybe he knows, hey, we're going to see a recession, but in the long run, we're going to be good. So these kind of things are always interesting to talk about. Like these people, like they're not necessarily psychic. Like they just have a little bit more information than we have. Which is, I mean, it's good for them, but if you were to simply blindly follow them, you're probably just moderately going to outperform the S&P. It's not like it's a massive difference, but these are typically good things to talk about. Now I wanted to get into earnings. We are back. Last week, we did have some of the big bank earnings, which I completely forgot about, so I'm going to talk about them this week. And then we did have some moderately or some fairly actually big companies released this week. So first one here is Goldman Sachs. They beat earnings and revenue. They're up a good amount on the week. JP Morgan, obviously one of the big banks. This would have been last week. They did beat earnings. And the one common theme I wanted to go over here with the big banks is they all released good earnings. However, they all are cautiously optimistic, or cautiously pessimistic, I guess would probably be the better way of putting it, going forward, in that the numbers are good right now, but they're concerned about the near future. So that's something that definitely needs to be pointed out here. Morgan Stanley, similar things here. They did beat earnings. They looks like they were actually up slightly on the week. Johnson & Johnson, this is a popular one for people. Beat earnings and revenue, they're actually up quite nicely on that news. If we look at the next one here, Bank of America also beat earnings and revenue. Also, again, they're a little cautious going forward as well. None of these big financial companies I own. I obviously, if things got cheap enough, I probably would buy, but like a JP Morgan or maybe even a Bank of America. But to me, there's just better options. Citigroup, also similar story, beat earnings and revenue. They were up on the week. Another kind of surprising one that I see, and actually very surprising, is United Airlines. United Airlines, they beat earnings and revenue, and they had really good numbers, and that was surprising because of a slowing economy, right? A slowing economy. I think people thought that they were gonna miss, and they actually released kind of decent guidance as well. So I don't think I ever would buy an airline just because they're super price sensitive. They're super competitive. It's just not a great industry necessarily. So I never would buy, but definitely very much worth keeping an eye on because they are very good barometers on the economy. Abbott Laboratories just beat earnings. They did miss revenue. They're actually up on the week. This is one that I do want to buy. I think it's a tad expensive where it's at right now, though. ASML, this is another one that I really like here. They're actually down on the news, but I think they sold off on the news from Jerome Powell mainly because they beat earnings and revenue. They did slightly lower guidance, but I mean I think they're still projecting like 10% revenue growth over the next 5 years. So I mean that's still solid. So I'm not concerned about ASML. I'm still buying. United Health, they released pretty bad earnings. They missed earnings, lowered guidance. And they were down very significantly on that news. They were down, they were down about 22% over the last couple days or so, even the last day. Actually, they released earnings before the market opened on Thursday. So this was literally in one day. They were down 22%. So this is a company that I used to like. I think that with all the scrutiny around health insurance companies in the States, like it's just not something I want to be touching, and the chances of regulation is just too concerning in my opinion. So that's why I used to own them, and I actually did pretty good, but I don't own them anymore. The next one is American Express. This is one I really do like here. They released good earnings. Numbers are up basically across the board. I'm buying them where they're at right now. I think they're a deal. Again, obviously I could be wrong, but that's just what I think. And the last one here is Netflix, and they absolutely destroyed their earnings and revenue. They easily beat. They were up a lot on that news. I think they're way too expensive where they're at right now. I don't know if I ever would own them. Maybe, I mean, if they got cheap enough, but I don't see that happening in anytime soon. So I don't think I would be buying Netflix. But again, this is... I think that what they've done recently, they kind of restructured how they do things. So I think that's kind of paying off for them. So that actually worked out pretty good. So that is earnings from this past week. Obviously, probably the next few weeks are going to be really big. I don't know which companies are releasing off the top of my head. I should have looked before. But over the next few weeks, we'll have all the major companies releasing, and this will drive the markets, right? Like if we get a really good earnings picture, and a lot of these companies say, hey, like, yeah, we think things might come down a little bit, but it's not as bad as what we think. That could drive the market up, or vice versa. A lot of these companies could say, hey, we're really worried about tariffs. We're lowering guidance. That will spook the market. So that's something that definitely is going to drive the market in the near future. So anyway, that's what I wanted to bring up today. If you liked the video, please like, subscribe, comment, and stay tuned for more. Check out those links below.